Video and photo backlogs can leave you overwhelmed, exhausted, and burnt out. We've been there, and our fears of outsourcing stopped us in the past. Can you find an editor as invested in your brand as you are? Will other photographers and filmmakers we network with look down on us for not editing everything on our own? That fear of outsourcing can be detrimental to your career. That's why we love our partnership with Weditor. Their attention to details with not only our work, but also their care for their clients through all steps of the outsourcing process lets us fully step back from editing and focus on what we love, knowing our work is receiving the attention it needs. More than just editing, Weditor is passionate about demystifying the outsourcing market. Follow Weditor on Instagram at we_r_Weditor for free educational tips, tools, and resources to guide you through the insanity of today's editing market. For an even deeper dive, follow Weditor's blog at weditor.com/outsourcing.
Welcome to the We Got You podcast, a network curated for wedding photographers and filmmakers that dives deep into the strategies and tactics to transitioning a side hustle in the wedding industry into a full-time, thriving career. We're your hosts, luxury wedding filmmaker Emma K. Films and luxury destination wedding photographer Hannah Brook Photography. It wasn't too long ago that we picked up our cameras for the first time, having absolutely no idea where it would lead us. Years later, we're traveling the globe for beautiful destination weddings, built our dream lifestyles, and run multi-six-figure careers. It didn't happen overnight and it wasn't easy, but it is attainable and so worth it. And we're ready to teach you our strategies. Covering a variety of topics from both our firsthand experiences and reputable guest speakers' insights crucial for business growth, we're exploring the art of marketing within your niche, discussing effective ways to attract and retain clients, leverage social media, and build a strong online presence, and so much more. We're not shying away from talking through the challenges of the wedding industry and offering realistic solutions to navigate them successfully. We emphasize the importance of networking, establishing meaningful relationships with clients, and continuously honing one's craft to stand out in a competitive market. This is the We Got You podcast.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the We Got You podcast. We are so glad to have you guys here listening another week, another Monday. And actually, so excited to bring you guys a guest speaker that we've had on before. It's crazy. We were looking to see how long ago we actually got to have her on the podcast, and it has been like years. So we are just so thankful and excited to welcome back our amazing guest speaker, which is Casi Yost, an incredible educator and photographer. Casi, how are you doing today?
I am doing so good because I get to see your beautiful faces again. It's been too long. And after this episode, I'm probably going to go lecture Emma about it being too long.
It really has been. Especially when we think about like years for the podcast, and let alone like even just like getting to chat and stuff. And it's so good to just hear how you're doing and get to catch up with you and everything. But I know that some of our listeners are new within the last couple years or might not have listened to your episode from before. So kind of before diving into what today's episode is going to be talking about, which is going to be talking about the importance of film photography and kind of like what film looks like in the wedding photography industry. Before we dive into all of that, we would just love for you to kind of reintroduce yourself for anyone listening who doesn't know you yet, what your Instagram handle is, how you got started with photography, and just really your whole creative journey up till this point.
Yeah, I would love to. It's so funny. I feel like everybody's story is kind of crazy and windy, and mine isn't different. I think I'm like everybody else. I started out really wanting to get into art. I actually went to art school, dropped out, and the first class that I took was film photography, and I just always wanted to shoot film, even in high school. And I don't think I tell many people that I dropped out of art school and then went to like a normal 4-year university and got my degree in marketing. But the whole time, like I have my artistic background and I've loved film photography for forever, but it just wasn't a thing. And, I ended up, because it was much cheaper, getting a digital camera and just like shooting my friends. After we graduated college, a few of them asked me to shoot their wedding. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I've just been like shooting landscapes and stuff. And I remember my friend, she's like, I'm going to do a first look with my dad. I want him to see me in my dress before my husband. And he turned around and he saw her and he started crying, and she started crying. And I thought, oh my God, how impactful is this? To create art for somebody, but also have it leave such an impact on their family for them to look back at those photos and remember how important those I guess landmarks in their life are, and be able to photograph something for someone, and photograph people who aren't always going to be in your life. I remember when my grandma passed away, the photos of her and I helped me grieve that loss. And we're all in the wedding industry. We always get those emails from people saying, "Hey, that photo that you took of my dad or my aunt, they passed away, and those photos really mean a lot to us now." Those are the reasons why I decided to like move away from the corporate world or doing whatever I was doing to pursue weddings, because I love making art, but I also love leaving some kind of an impact on people. And that's truly what I want to do at the end of the day is, we all take photos of beautiful things, locations, places, flowers, dresses. But when we die, what impact are we actually leaving behind? That is the only thing I'm worried about. And yes, of course, it's great to take photos of beautiful venues and these beautiful weddings. But the only thing I really care about is documenting it in a way that it's going to increase in value or leave some kind of an impact on the couple years down the road. And what I pay attention to is who are the relationships in their lives, who are the people that are in their lives that are meaningful, and I just pay attention to those interactions. So that was a roundabout way of explaining it, but like that's where my heart started or went from, and here's where it is now. And it's just been a really crazy, windy road of experimenting, trying different cameras, trying different presets. We all go through that. We all go through the pain of trying to grow our business and trying to decide where are we going to go with our business? How do we grow it? I've done it all. Like everybody who's listening to this podcast, all the stuff that they've tried to grow their business or figure out what they want to do, I've been there too. And so that's hopefully a non-rambling way to answer the question. But that's why I'm here where I am right now.
And I feel like you can see the emotion that speaks or that is spoken through your images and through the photos that you capture. And I think it's so cool seeing we've been friends for years, and it's been so cool seeing your business completely take off from going into this more editorial push to then really getting into the luxury market. And it's so cool just to see how emotional your images are. And I think it's really cool, even just kind of looking back at like your story and what really drew you to just becoming a wedding photographer, is just the fact of like, it's really easy, I think sometimes to, especially in our jobs, to just kind of go through the motions of a wedding day, that it's really easy to forget that this is the best day of someone's life. This is like the day where they get to bring all of their family together. And sometimes it's easy for us to go through the motions, but like when you're really able to soak in like the impact that you're making in someone's life, that this day is so sacred to them. I mean, ideally they get to do it one time, and like just how impactful that is, I feel like it's really easy to forget. And it's cool that you like bring that up again, is just how big of an impact you get to make for your clients.
Yeah, it's I think you make that transition, maybe, at least for me, when you're like, okay, what's next? Like, I've photographed what I wanted to photograph. Like, what is the meaning? What's the why for me behind this? And you either figure that out or you burn out. And I definitely got to that point, and I had to figure out like, well, what does make me excited about photographing a wedding? And it's usually when there's something like really quickly, something that happens, like two sisters, the bride and her one sister at this wedding, they walk into the reception and they're both smiling, standing side by side, looking at all of the guests. And the bride takes a deep breath and closes her eyes, and so does the sister. And they put their arms around each other and lean their heads together, and they're closing their eyes and smiling. And I took a photo because I was like, they're feeling something right now. And that bride emailed me immediately after she saw that photo. And she's like, I can't even tell you, Cassie, how important that photo is to me because of her relationship with her sister. So you just have to feel and have empathy and think like, if I were here, who would be the important people and what are the important things that are happening between people?
Yeah,
I
love that. Yeah, seriously, Cassie. And like, you can see that through your work. You can see all of the emotion that you're able to capture. And like, that's really highlighted, especially like on your social medias, like looking at your portfolio, which kind of transitions us to talking about the actual images that you're capturing. And we want to talk today about film photography. So with that being said, what led you to start incorporating film within your business? Because I feel like, you know, like when did you know it was the right time? What really intrigued you for when you like knew you're like, okay, like I want to get started and start shooting film?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always loved film, but there wasn't really a demand for it, right? And film is expensive to buy, to develop, all of that. And it's expensive to learn. Like we make mistakes when we're shooting film, and those mistakes cost dollars because you have to develop and you have to learn from that. So for me, I started incorporating it because of my marketing background. And I'm competitive and I wanted to have some kind of an edge. And I saw that people were really, especially people that I looked up to, their work spoke to me because they were using film. And, you know, anything in Europe or anything in Australia or New Zealand in the wedding industry, they're always like 5 years ahead of us. And I saw that they were using film and I loved that style. And it just really called to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get ahead of the curve. I know this is going to be a thing. I really love it. I want my work to look like this. So I'm going to start to use film because it really felt like me. And I also felt like whenever I shot film, film looks the way that you remember it in your brain. And that's one of the reasons why I try to keep my editing very minimal, because I've had many people say to me, Cassie, I'm really attracted to your work because everything looks the way that it looks in real life. And I know a lot of planners really like that too. So it was just a combination of all these things that were like, it was like, yeah, of course I would incorporate film because it makes sense. I'm going to attract the kind of planners that I want to work with. I'm going to attract the kind of couples like fashion forward who really value the way film looks. It aligns with my style, my philosophy of shooting, and it was just the right time. And I loved that I could be ahead of the curve because I saw this trend coming. And hopefully it won't be a trend. It will be something that people continue to do. But I definitely saw it and I wanted to make that transition before other people and be known for that because I thought, you know, I did start in film. That is where my love for photography originally came from. And I might as well have some kind of competitive edge. And really, I know this sounds kind of bad, but I was like, I don't care if no one else hires me. I'm going to be true to myself and shoot the way I want, do what I want. I want my art to look the way that I want it to look. And I feel like that will attract the right kind of people. And I follow that rule in my business where I do what I want and I show what I want. And it really does attract the kind of people who end up, like I said before we started recording, a few of my brides ended up becoming really close friends. And I think it's just because I have a no nonsense approach to my business. I want it to be a reflection of what I want to do. And I also understand that we have to adapt in our businesses and we have to see trends and we have to see things coming and adapt if it is true to you and your style.
Yeah, well, first of all, I was like, I absolutely love the way that you describe film. I've never heard anyone describe it the way where it's like they look like how your memories or the film photos look like how you remember the memories to be. Like they're
Yeah.
just so like nostalgic almost is like a good word for it. But then also even thinking about it, like how you said earlier, it's either you burn out or you find your why and kind of dig into that. And even just listening to how you were like, no, this feels like me and film feels like me. It wasn't ever a, is this going to get me more followers? Is this going to get me more attraction or engagement or whatnot? It's like, no, this is my, like, this is a piece now of my why. This is a piece that fits in really well. And when you kind of follow your why, the pieces like start to fit in. And it's not like, oh, you follow your why and then you're going to crash and burn. It's you follow your why, you start to really grow your business that feels like you and like learn pieces of your business that are so you, where then you can start to thrive. And obviously your work is amazing and has grown so much and stuff. But like being able to see that as a part of it. And then now everybody's kind of like slowly starting to include it or at least ask about it. Even clients ask about it and stuff has been incredible. But like being able to follow truly what you feel like is right for your business and then it like working and working out at the end, that's where I feel like it's so important for especially people who are beginning to like follow your gut and follow what you feel like is right and follow what you feel aligns with your business instead of what you feel like you should be doing per se. So yeah, I absolutely love that.
And we all start out like that, I think, where we tend to do what we think will help our business grow. And you do. Sometimes you do when you're starting out, you do have to try everything and try different trends, try what other people are doing, and figure out what works for you. Because if you sit and do nothing, you're never going to figure out what is true to you. So that I think it's just important to try it all.
Yeah. And I know that like now it's not even just like photographers or videographers or whatnot kind of incorporating it into their work as more of like a creative aspect. Now it is sometimes like a big piece of wedding packages. You know, like I know friends who have asked for their entire wedding to be shot on film or have even not chosen me to photograph their wedding day because I don't do film. And so it's really incredible to see how much it's like grown in the industry.
Does your current client delivery system feel unexciting, limiting, and boring? Maybe you're still using good old Google Drive or Dropbox to deliver your clients' wedding films. If the answer to these is yes, it's time to level up your video delivery experience with VidFlow. VidFlow is a pay-per-use online platform that allows you to deliver fully branded websites for each of your clients. While being incredibly affordable, VidFlow is accessible on mobile, desktop, and smart TVs with included long-term hosting so that your clients can truly enjoy the entire experience when receiving their wedding films. When I first found VidFlow, it was such an easy switch that truly benefited my business substantially. With so many incredible features and options for customization and personalization, VidFlow continues to wow my clients time and time again. You can find VidFlow on Instagram or visit their website at vidflow.co. Use our code WGY20 for 20% off a yearly premium membership and level up your client experience today with VidFlow.
I'm really curious, especially with your perspective, having started film a little bit like maybe before the trend and kind of being able to incorporate that in your business. Why do you think it's kind of grown so much recently? Do you feel like anything kind of kickstarted it, or what is your kind of take on how much it's grown?
Yeah, I think honestly, there's influencers out in the wild, right? We've got these
Yep.
really awesome people who are taking photos on film. And then we have people that we kind of idolize that kind of experiment with it. And then you've got Pinterest. And then we have people who want their weddings to be unique and different. So they want people who also shoot film. And then what happens in my mind, and I go back to marketing, when you have competitors and they see people who are gaining a competitive edge because they're doing something unique, then it starts to blow up like wildfire and it becomes really mainstream. So I think to answer your question, there's multiple reasons. It can be influencers. It can be the fact that we're moving into a new phase in the wedding industry where everybody wants to be a luxury wedding photographer. Like that's the word that's going around. And they think if they shoot film, that's going to put them up there. People want a competitive edge. They know that, or they've heard from planners, hey, do you also shoot film? My clients want film. Oh, so sorry, we're not going to be able to hire you because they want someone who shoots film. So I think it's truly a combination of a lot of different things, a lot of different influences coming together. And now it's just really blowing up and becoming mainstream because that's what people are demanding. But yeah, I don't think I know where it exactly came from. I think it was a combination of all of those.
It is honestly wild thinking about even just a few years ago how it was honestly like you would hardly see photographers shooting film. And now, so many photographers that I know, especially in the luxury market, they're all shooting film. So, like, on the wedding day, how often would you say, like, what is kind of your ratio? How often are you shooting film? How often are you shooting digital? Like, are you delivering like a gallery, for example, that's like half and half? Like, how much film do you actually shoot on the wedding day?
Quick answer, I would say like 30 rolls of film, but that's like maybe 20 rolls of 35 millimeter and 10 rolls of 120. But a longer answer is I shoot film when I know that the photo is going to turn out well. Because you can shoot film in any kind of lighting situation and you're going to get a cool photo. But I've shot it enough to know, like, okay, well, I'm only going to shoot this camera during this part of the day because I like the way that it turns out. Mm-hmm. And I've gone back and I've analyzed my film photos and which cameras I've used. And I look back and I'm like, I never like the way that this contacts photo looks whenever I shoot it during the reception. So I'm just not going to shoot it then. And if you don't have that self-awareness to look back and say, oh, I'm not going to shoot film during this part of the day because I never end up liking the photos, and you just shoot all through the day, you might just waste a lot of money. But that's my own personal philosophy. So I will shoot film whenever it feels right. I don't have an amount that I guarantee my couples. I'm like, hey, I bring huge quart or whatever gallon freezer bags full of film with me because I would rather actually shoot more film than digital. Of course, every time I take a shot on film, I back it up with a shot on my digital just in case. But the answer is I shoot film whenever I want, whenever I think that the photo is going to turn out and align with my style. So I don't have a guaranteed number. There was a wedding I shot where I had 800 photos in film and 600 photos in digital. And depending on the wedding, it can really fluctuate.
I honestly love, though, that it's kind of different per wedding or kind of what it feels like, because then you can be so intentional with your photos instead of like, oh, I have to hit a quota or I have to get
Right.
so many photos of film or so many photos of digital or whatnot, or, kind of feeling like you're juggling the two. It's like, no, you can really, truly like, okay, this is what it feels like is right in this moment, or like, this is what I feel like would be gorgeous in film and digital or film, whatnot. But like being able to be so much more intentional with those photos and not just taking them to take them. And I feel like we talk about that too, even just on a wedding day in digital, whether you're a photographer, videographer, any kind of creative, you're not just shooting to shoot, you're not just shooting to get content. You're being as intentional as possible when it comes to, your why and why you're there and who the couple are and, what is drawing you to them and what is really those significant parts of the wedding day. It's the same thing with film. It's not just shooting to shoot. It is, again, like what feels like it's going to be the best represented in film, or what feels like your film is going to be used the best way.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when you do shoot film, I didn't go into film shooting like, oh my gosh, every click is $1 or $2. Yeah, that is a fear, but I don't want to shoot and like stifle the creativity. I've just shot enough to know like, that will actually look better on digital, aligning with my brand. So I want people who are listening who are like, oh, I want to start in film, to not be afraid to overshoot when you're starting, so you can learn what actually do I like about film. And when I do shoot, what film shots do I like during certain parts of the day, and be intentional about it, because we also have to balance the fact that we're business owners. We have to maintain profit margins, or at least try to. So it's a weird dance, but yeah, there's intentionality, being a good business owner, and also like when you start, shoot the heck out of film. That way you can learn. You're really reinvesting in yourself by overshooting when you start, so you can learn what you like learn what you don't like, and be as comfortable with a film camera as you are with the digital.
That's actually really incredible that you say that, because I'm really curious, like, for the photographers that are starting in film, like, what are a few of those mistakes that you kind of see them, you know, make right off the bat, those couple mistakes that you see when they're starting film? Like, obviously one is shoot as much as you can and like really like invest that into your business. But what are a couple other things that you feel like people might be making mistakes when starting film?
I would say the first one is everybody like over researches what is the best film camera to get? What camera is the camera? And the honest answer is just get a cheap 35 millimeter manual camera like the Canon AE1 or the Pentax K1000. They're super cheap on eBay, and learn how to shoot it. And you're going to learn how to like manage the dials similar to your digital, but don't overthink your first film camera, because basically all film cameras are the same. The lens is truly what makes the difference. The other thing I would say is not metering your light, because with digital, we can underexpose and fix it. But when we overexpose, you can never fix an overexposed image. It's actually the opposite with film. If you underexpose film, you'll never get that photo back. So until you're comfortable with just knowing what kind of settings you're going to need in every lighting situation, you need to buy a light meter. And they're so easy to use. You just have to invest a couple of minutes. And once you buy the light meter and learn to meter the light, you will not waste money on underexposed images. Those are the two things that are really, really important. And being willing to just take time to learn your camera and use YouTube, honestly, like you could figure it out in like a week and then start shooting. Truly, people overthink film. It is not that complicated. I think the most complicated thing that people overthink besides those two are film stocks and ISO. ISO doesn't change on film. It stays the same. You buy ISO 100 film, 200, 800, and then there's black and white 3200 ISO film. That's it. So you kind of just have to work with whatever ISO film you're given, and the only other settings you can change, truly, most people don't change f-stop, is shutter speed. So the only thing you're really changing on a film camera is the shutter speed, because you already know you can't change the ISO of film. So as long as you're relying on your light meter to tell you what shutter speed to use, you can never go wrong. It's just people get so overwhelmed with it. And if you just sit down and take some time, slow down, you'll be totally fine. I promise.
I love that. And I think it's so cool getting to know that it's like, it doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to be that difficult, especially when you're first starting. I had so many questions. And so like, cause I just wanted a film camera for personal stuff. I obviously do video, right? Like I don't do any photography stuff, but like, I remember just reaching out to you for a film camera for my personal stuff. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And like, how do I learn this camera? And you're just like, get a cheap one and you figure it out. And I think it's so cool to know that it doesn't have to be scary. I would love to know, before we close out this episode, do you think from a photographer standpoint, and I know that people probably are going to have a lot of different opinions on this, and that's so okay, but from your personal opinion, do you think that film is a necessity for the luxury market? If you are a photographer trying to get into the luxury market, is film something that at this time, like during this time, is needed to thrive in the luxury market?
My short answer is no. I would say you need to have a killer portfolio. You need to be professional. Professionalism is not something you're just born with. You have to learn what it is. You have to learn how to network. You have to build, again, I'm going to say it again, you have to build a killer portfolio. Like so many luxury photographers, they're hired because of a combination of those things. So I would say no, you don't have to. However, if we're talking about this year and you're like on the cusp of like getting into the luxury market, it might give you an edge. And I love that because I'm all about the edge and like competition. And I think it's so fun to play with and experiment. But when you look at photographers like Kelly Brown and Norman and Blake, all of them, they all use some kind of film camera that gives their galleries this unique quality in some of the photos that you can't put your finger on. And that does set them apart. So if you're so overwhelmed and you're like, Cassie, I can't add another thing this year, that's fine. Maybe just get a point and shoot camera to add a little bit of film in your portfolio. But I would say if you're really, really serious about getting into the luxury market, you need to do whatever you need to do to get a competitive advantage. And if you are like not throwing yourself ahead of the pack somehow, then yeah, I would say film could help you there. So it does. I'm sorry, that's not a good answer, but that's how it is in business and in life. Things are complicated. You have to have strategy. You have to think about and be honest with yourself. Where am I right now compared to my peers? Where do I want to be? And what are the things that I need to do to separate myself from the pack? And if that includes film, then do it. Like, why wouldn't you invest in your business and yourself?
I absolutely love that too. And hearing that, especially with like I feel like this episode is so much, there's no pressure. It is something that can add to your work, can add to what you're giving to your clients. And it can be easier to learn than I think a lot of people fear. And so it's almost like, I hope that anyone listening who has been curious about it or think, oh, I can't do that because it's too much, it's too hard. I really hope that this has kind of put your mind at ease and almost like, okay, this is possible. This is something I could do. And hopefully even like kind of excited about trying it or kind of excited about, dipping your toes in, even if that's like Cassie just said, like get a point and shoot and like practice with friends, like have a friend who's close to you and do headshots of each other and practice just to get like some of the settings or lighting or whatnot down, just to learn, and then not guaranteeing it to your clients, but then, bring it to a couple of your weddings early on this year, test it out, play around with it, have that be that little like under promise, over deliver some of those to your clients and kind of see how that feels with your work. I absolutely love that. And I hope you guys really like listening can take that fear and pressure out of it. Cause I think especially with trends in the wedding industry, sometimes it can be like, oh, that's so much. Even I remember when Reels first came out, everyone was like, oh my goodness, this is too much. I don't know how to make a reel. I can't do it. And now it's very normalized. And once you kind of start it, it's easier than you think. So yeah, I just am so thankful that you're able to like jump on your Cassie, because there's nobody that I know who is better to talk about it than you when it comes to like the film and the like wedding photographer industry and stuff, and hopefully kind of put everyone's minds at ease.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I love talking about this, and I hope more people decide to take the plunge and do it, not just to like help their business, but also for themselves to have a creative outlet. If you're getting burnt out, try film. It might be that thing that pulls you back in, and it is not as scary as you think. And I'm not trying to plug my film course, but I do teach photographers how to do this. And I love talking about it. If anyone ever wants to DM me and be like, Cassie, I have this thing with film, what should I do? Just message me. I'm happy to answer the question. Honestly, I feel like that's how we grow and that's how we build our business, is by helping each other. So absolutely happy to share any of my knowledge with you all. And I'm just really thankful for you two ladies for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Seriously. And honestly, like, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because before we close, we really want to get your Instagram handle. That way people can contact you, but would also love to get details on the film education that you offer for photographers.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I will link that. My Instagram is at Casi Yost Photo, but my name is spelled weird. It's just CASI. And my last name is YOST. So if, we can link, I guess you guys can link it, but it's just Casi Yost Photo. And my film course, I have linked on my website too, on casiyost.com. It's in the resources page at the very bottom of, I did a whole rebrand of my website, and all of my education is at the bottom of my website for photographers. And it's all linked there. I've got freebies, I've got articles, like I compare film presets in a blog post where I talk about my favorite film preset. Shout out Brady Bates. And so there's lots of stuff there if people want to like rummage around and look for some resources.
Yeah, if you guys are listening, like we said, there's literally nobody better that we could have on this episode. So go check it out. Go see her work. Go see what she offers. Thank you, Cassie, so much for like just being willing and open to share with everybody who's listening today. And also to jump back on the podcast episode. We're so grateful that we got to have you. So thankful for everybody listening. And we will see you guys next week on the We Got You podcast. Thanks for listening to another episode of the We Got You podcast. We would absolutely love it if you could take an extra minute to leave us a review and let us know what you think. DM us a screenshot of it and we'll send you a coffee on us. If you want access to an exclusive community, rad freebies, giveaways, and wedding referrals, then join our Facebook group today. Also, if you aren't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you're following along on Instagram at WeGotYou_podcast to stay up to date. We'll see you next week on the We Got You podcast.